Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Can we get serious now?
One thing that did happen during the 60s was some music of an unusual or experimental nature did get recorded and did get released. Now look at who the executives were in those companies at those times. Not hip young guys. These were cigar-chomping old guys who looked at the product that came and said, I don't know. Who knows what it is? Record it, stick it out. If it sells, all right. We were better off with those guys than we are now with the supposedly hip young executives who are making the decisions of what people should see and hear in the marketplace.
Success in the music business begins with a dream, a vision. This podcast will give you, the listener, the insight and tools to turn that vision into a reality. Meet the industry professionals who work day by day behind the scenes, helping to make those dreams come true. Welcome to the business side of music.
All the way from Bangkok, Thailand. We've been trying to set this one up for a while, and I'm really glad he could join us on the show today, even though the huge time difference. We're just eating breakfast, and you're getting ready to have a nightcap before you go to bed. Joining us, though, is Karl Kongkham, who is the managing director of Warner Music Thailand. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Hi. Good evening. Good morning.
One of those two things. Before the show, we talked a little bit. You're originally a Toronto Canadian boy who's been in Thailand, I think you said since the mid-90s?
1999.
1999, so the late 90s. And as managing director of Warner Music Thailand, you've obviously, I'm going to say, since that time that you got there, you've seen a lot of changes in the music industry as we have here in the States. Let me back up just a little bit because I always like to do this and get a little bit of background. How did you get started in the business? That's part A to the question. And then part B is, how did you wind up in Thailand?
Okay, so I've actually only been in the music business for 5 years. I'm just starting my 6th year now. So before that, I was in advertising, branding, promotions, and stuff like that. But yeah, one of my original bosses in advertising here, he knew that I was more than your average music lover, I guess. You know, everybody loves music, or most people do. But he knew that it was a particular interest of mine, and he had heard about the role, so he introduced me to the headhunter. And then he called me, and I said, Warner Music exists in Thailand. I had no idea what they were doing or what was going on. So I said, sounds interesting. And I took the interview, and I met the guy who would hire me at the time, and we just chatted about music for about close to 2 hours. And then he came back about 2 or 3 months later. He was based in Hong Kong, and we did it again, and we did it one more time. And then he said, okay. And he gave me a shot. As somebody not from the business, you know, it was a big shot, but it's not too different from what we're doing. It's a people business. It's a creative business. It's an idea business. And it's something that's, at that time, it's hard to quantify and figure out how to monetize things and how to grow things, similar to ideas businesses. And it's actually gotten harder, I think. Because you're right. Even in the 5 years that I've been on board, my business and the business in Asia and in Thailand specifically has completely transformed from where it was, you know, in the past. I grew up in 70s and 80s, combing through record stores and diving through records and CDs and tape bins and so on and so forth. Doesn't happen anymore. So it's been quite a learning experience.
So that's one question I want to ask you, and that is, the music business obviously has changed on a global level, and we're streaming more than we ever have as a world. As a group of world listeners, everybody seems to be streaming these days. I did have a conversation with Kenny G's bassist, who was on the show a few weeks back, and he commented about how Kenny G had to get over to China because they were bootlegging so much of his product that he wasn't making any money through the CD sales. So he was going to do live concerts. Is it that same way? I mean, are you still selling physical product in Thailand, or has it all pretty much become a digital world?
It's all digital. I mean, physical stuff is here is done like on a collector's basis for local artists mostly, you know, do a few hundred CDs or LPs, you know, vinyl or tapes of cassettes have been in recently. And that's just added sort of revenue and income for our artists. And you'll do that at an album launch or at a festival or something like that. But I was just looking at my numbers, and digital sales is about 83% of my total revenue. And of that, physical is almost nothing. But when I joined 5 years ago, I think digital was closer to maybe 40% of my total revenue, and physical was significantly in that. And the rest is made up of stuff like live revenue, other licensing revenue, public performance, and things like that, collection societies. So it's basically all digital, to be honest.
Are you seeing that growth? Is it comparable to what we're seeing in the rest of the world? Where does Thailand fit into the global music scene?
Oh, I should know this number off the top of my head. I believe we're in the top 40 market. I think we're moving up. Last year, according to the IFPI, we were the biggest growth market in terms of recorded music. So last year, meaning 2021, we don't have the 2022 calendar numbers yet, but it was 51% growth based on 2020 for Thailand. And there's various factors for that. I mean, some of it is we're getting better numbers, so it's a bit inflated, but it is a hugely growing market. I mean, my numbers grew about 40% year on year last year versus the year before. And this year they're going to grow another 25%, I'd say. But yeah, it's really driven by streaming is quite new here. Spotify launched 5 years ago. Apple's been here for a while. There have been some local players. Tencent from China is here. But Spotify has really driven growth, and YouTube Premium has just recently launched last year. So it's not just the ad-supported rates, but all these different players are really driving it, plus all the new platforms, whether it's, of course, TikTok, we can't ignore that. And now things like Instagram and Facebook, that's all getting licensed and monetized properly. So that's really exponentially driving the growth. Now I expect it'll probably start to plateau as the market starts getting full and it starts being second nature. And I think the pandemic has really helped drive it, like it's driven all sorts of online platforms, whether it's, video streaming platforms and so forth. I guess it's helped us in a perverse way, being locked up for 2 years. And now it's all broken loose, and it's festival insanity here. So it's kind of cool. It's kind of good as well.
Well, and so I was going to ask you that during the pandemic, obviously the music business here in the States, and I've had conversations with some agents and managers over in Europe, specifically in England and Germany, and they've said that the return to the live music scene is finally happening, but it's really taken some time to get back to where they used to be, and the return is taking a little bit longer. Here, so especially in the States, we're finally seeing acts that had to cancel bookings, live performances in 2020 due to the pandemic. They're slowly starting to get their calendar to fill up. Are you seeing that type of pace in Thailand from a live music scene and maybe breaking artists, new artists into the music world there?
So the live music scene here, I mean, okay, I haven't lived in North America for a long time. I've been back a bit, so I don't exactly know, but I think it's quite different in a way. Live is crucial here for artists to make money. I mean, the revenue per stream rates here are much lower than they are in the West, obviously, because of ad rates and subscription rates. It's really a fraction. But the way most acts here make their money is, we call it, it's live, but it's a different kind of live, right? It's not really touring. It's pub shows, restaurants, bars, and it'll be high frequency, low, a few hundred here, a few hundred there. And in terms of people, bigger places, maybe 1,000 people. And, an artist might charge anywhere from, let's say, $1,200 US a night, all in, including whatever costs they have in terms of the backup band and sound engineer, up until a top tier artist might get up to maybe $10,000 a night. And we manage that because there's no real artist management here. So we help our artists with that. But what has happened over the last 2 years is about 50% of these outlets have had to shut, right? So as we're now opened up and people are allowed to bars are allowed to open and bring bands in, there's more bands. People, they didn't do anything for the last 2 years except sit in their bedrooms and try to make music and get that out there. But there's a lot less venues. There's a lot of pent up demand for it. So it's quite saturated right now. And to get into that, a lot of the top tier local acts have dumped their prices just so they can get back out there. So it's been really cutthroat, to be honest, but hopefully it'll stabilize. we see the numbers really picking up. We see a lot more outlets opening up. So I think it'll just be a matter of time now. If we go into a global recession, that's going to be a bit of a killer. But fingers crossed right now, there's a big desire for it. And it's been great. We've seen a lot more variety because of the pandemic, I think. And this is just my theorizing. So there's so many more genres out there, new artists popping up. And now it's up to the outlets who are normally run by 55, 60-year-old guys who just like what they like, right? Who don't necessarily understand what's happening, for them to understand that, the 20-year-olds, the 25-year-olds who they're trying to cater to now listen to multiple genres, right? It's not the typical song list that they would be used to. So it's a bit of an education going on now as well there.
The Thai music scene, how is that different than, say, other Asian markets such as South Korea and Japan?
Well, we're much smaller, obviously. Economically, we're quite smaller. Language is quite an issue, although, Thais are very good at getting inspiration from all over the world and then ingesting it and spitting it out in their own unique way, whether it's, in all sorts of art, whether it's film or commercials and especially music. Now, I think what I've observed, and we have a pretty good network of Warner Music in Asia. We have representation in 11 different territories, and I meet up with all the managing directors and the teams, and we listen to each other's music. I think Thailand's an interesting case in that we really do straddle. I think there's a North Asian sound. A North Asian taste sensibility, whether it's Taiwan, South Korea, Japan. China's a bit of a mystery to me. I think let's put China to one side. And then there's more of a other Southeast Asian, whether it's the Philippines, Indonesia, and Malaysia. And I think Thailand has artists that appeal to both. So when I talk about Indonesia and Philippines, my take is that they're very pop driven. They're huge consumers of Western music, Malaysia as well, I believe, and Singapore, of course. And, so that type of Western pop song, the top 40, the Billboard stuff, it does resonate well there. In Thailand, we do have that kind of artist. Whereas in North Asia, I think there's a very vibrant indie scene, alternative scene. So Korea is not just K-pop. There's Korean R&B. There's this urban sound up there that, there is that kind of sound in the West as well, but it is quite strong. In Thailand, we do have a very strong sort of indie alternative scene. So I think the difference between here and maybe North America is Black music, rap, hip hop it exists here, but it's not pop. It's not the chart. It's not on the charts. There are some artists who do transcend their culture, and become pop stars or massive stars. But if you look at the charts now here, it's multiple genres. It's indie, it's pop, it's singer-songwriter, it's overproduced boy band, girl band. That kind of, that very, what you would associate with maybe K-pop. So yeah, Thailand, I think it just straddles the different taste sensibilities of all these. So you'll have a certain Thai artist who will do well in festivals. And we have a lot of artists in my indie label who resonate well in Taiwan, right? And then some other artists who do very well in places like the Philippines and Indonesia, where it's a slightly different market.
On the show with us today, all the way from Bangkok, Thailand, we have Karl Kongkham.
Hi, I'm Rachel Bronstein with Life's Jam. Check out my episode on the business side of music.
You're listening to the business side of music.
As a musician, you have a dream, that vision of what success looks like for you. Though it's not only about the money, money is part of it. Whether you've been extremely successful or you're just striving to maintain a regular cash flow, you need a plan. Money Concepts can help you develop a customized plan to achieve the financial stability and success you want. For over 40 years, Money Concepts has been providing holistic financial planning services to individuals, families, and business owners. As an independent firm, Money Concepts and their associates are committed to always represent the best interest of the client. It's really about a committed, benevolent interest in them personally. This independence, coupled with that committed, benevolent interest, means they represent you, the client, not a product supplier. It's not about selling products, it's about helping you achieve success. To learn how this can benefit you, contact my buddy, John Adams, with Money Concepts at 737-867-9309. That's 737-867-9309. You can also email John at jadams@moneyconcepts.com.
Hey friends, this is Dr. Garrett Hope. I am a speaker, coach, and composer. I am also host of the Portfolio Composer podcast and founder and executive director of the Ultimate Music Business Summit. The third annual Ultimate Music Business Summit is a 3-day virtual conference that'll be held on January 5th, 6th, and 7th, 2023. This 3-day virtual event features over 24 speakers to help you build your music business. As a musician, you care about your art. You want to make a difference in your community and in the world. You want to pass your knowledge on to your students, and you want to do more than trade your time for money and just get by every month. UMBS is all about the one thing you didn't learn in music school, realizing that you are a business. It offers dozens of ways to build a career as an independent musician, including marketing, copywriting, studio development, mindset, money, and networking opportunities. Whether you're a composer, touring musician, studio teacher, recording artist, or professor, UMBS is for you. Get your ticket now at musicsummit.biz.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Karl Kongkham, who is the managing director for Warner Music Thailand. He's based out of Bangkok, who's joining us with this massive time zone difference. We were talking a little bit about the different tastes in music and K-pop bands and indie artists. Does the indie artist in Thailand, here in the States, it's kind of become a new thing to be an indie artist and for it to be acceptable. Of course, we now have a thing called Americana music, which is kind of almost the catch-all for indie artists. You don't have to be country, you don't have to be rock, you don't have to be folk. You kind of all fit into that Americana umbrella. How is the indie artist scene in Thailand? Is an indie artist well received?
They're very much well received by like the cool kids, the university students, and often we in the labels or in the media are the last to hear of them. I mean, we did some surveys of pub owners. I was talking about the pubs recently in some university towns, and survey of their listeners, right? Who are your top 5 bands? 4 of the top 5 were completely indie. No one had ever heard of them, but these kids knew about them, right? And I think the less polished, the more authentic they are, the cooler they seem, and they get really embraced. And then, and it's very easy for them to self-publish on things like YouTube, right? YouTube is the biggest platform here. And a lot of these artists will get up there and there's, they'll put a song out there. It'll be low production music, low production video, and it'll get 20, 30, 40, 50 million views organically, right? And then all of a sudden it pops up on the radar and then you sign them. And you have to be careful not to over polish them and work them too hard because then they lose their credibility and the cool kids don't like them anymore. So yeah, indie is mainstream here now. And it's kind of a catch-all word. I mean, yeah, I don't know how to define it. There's a certain sound in my head, but it does range from like bedroom audio produced on your laptop kind of thing to a kid with guitar, singer-songwriter. It can be a bit folk, a bit country, a little bit rock, a bit electro, and all mixed up together.
So it almost becomes like a melting pot of music, or I'll use the term Heinz 57 for that artist out there. So where does Warner Music Thailand fit into that picture?
It's interesting. When I joined 5 years ago, we have 2 legendary artists I still do. I'm blessed. It's basically one's been in the industry for 35 years, one for 40 years, and they grew out of like this folk communist people uprising of that time. So it would be like if you had, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young and Bob Dylan, right? I've got those guys and they're still doing a lot of work and they're still active today. But when I joined, we had another 5 acts at the time and they were all genres. There was a metalcore band, a new metal band, an EDM band, a synth pop band, a hip hop artist and a synth pop band, right? And so I think that's the beauty of being Warner Music because I do have the resources and the bandwidth where I don't need to pigeonhole myself into one specific genre. So we try to be a bit genre agnostic if we believe in the artist. So I actually have 3 labels right now. I have Warner Music Thailand as sort of like the mother label, and those are for like established artists. And we try to do like it's done in the West. If YouTube is the main channel, we try to build the artist channels. Those are for artists who have established themselves, have an audience. And then I have 2 other labels, one called Wafer Records, which was that sort of hodgepodge of like multiple genres, but it's kind of transformed into, it's got 2 lanes, an indie lane and a young pop lane. But all my artists are artists. They create, they write, they produce, we get them help, but they're not like pretty faces or handsome faces who can sing only. And then we just give them the song to sing. And then the 3rd label is called Dumb Recordings. And that was our attempt to be more of an urban vibe, but we didn't go down the rap route because that lane's already filled here. So it would be like an urban taste, Western urban vibe of there could be rap in it, but it's more like alternative urban music. Someone like Abazi, a singer-songwriter, is kind of a modern kind of a vibe, a bit cool. So I've got these 3 labels. I've got 20 artists under them right now. So from 5 to 20, of that 5, there's only 1 remaining. So it's pretty much turned over. So how do I fit in? I was just trying to see how much talent we can get in and invest in them. And yeah, it's speculative, right? You got to believe in them, but you don't know what the market's going to what the kids are going to like. But we give them all a shot. We recently had some good luck, broken 3 or 4 artists in the last year and a half or so. So the work is starting to pay off. And those artists are from various genres. I've got an R&B singer-songwriter guy. I've got a pop crooner who's a handsome guy who's, he could be our Shawn Mendes. And I've got my version of Bazi, a sad boy, handsome, but, don't know why his songs are so sad because he's got everything going for him. But, and then I've got a cool pop duo producer and a singer, a guy-girl duo who do the very much sort of like the cool kid Japan influenced pop with no boundaries. They'll do a pop punk song, they'll do a hyper pop song. So all over the place, but that's the beauty of it, right? And we can do that because we do have the resources to invest in different artists and grow their channels. Whereas a lot of the local labels here, everything sits in the label channel. So if you're pop R&B label, you can only really sign pop R&B artists into your label, because if you sign something else and you publish their content in your channel, your audience isn't going to get it. Right?
Yeah. It doesn't translate very well is what you're saying. Yeah,
no, the audience that you've built up for your previous roster doesn't sort of migrate to like the new act. And then it's like, and I've gone through that pain as well, and I'm still going through it now. But that's why we're trying to invest in our artist channels. And it's a heavy lift, but I think in the long run, it's the right way to go.
When we talk about Warner Music, obviously Warner Music is one of the largest footprints in the world. It's very global, encompassing. The stance that Warner Music has here in the States is quite large, and I've worked under that umbrella at one point myself. Does Warner Music Thailand and the rest of the Warner Music world, do you guys communicate with each other? Do you share any type of thoughts, or, hey, here's an artist that you might want to consider? Or are you pretty much just a standalone in Thailand?
No, we're definitely not isolated, right? Yeah, we are, structurally, we're an affiliate. We're a sort of a business unit. I report into Warner Music Asia. We have a regional office here that covers 11 territories. And, I was on a call last night with most of the managing directors all around the world, and they were sharing learnings and sharing new releases and talking about certain priorities. And we had a meetup in Miami earlier this year. So it's funny. I haven't worked for any of the other majors, but my feeling is Warner is a bit, it's like I think, someone used to joke, like we're the major indie. It's like a hodgepodge, right? It's the Warner Music Group, whether it's Atlantic or Rhino or whatever, right? Warner UK, Warner Records, Warner, all the affiliates that we've got. And each of the affiliates, or each of the labels, each of the imprints does have a very unique identity, but under that Warner umbrella, and we're able to share and learn from each other. In Asia, we're quite well connected. I'm tight with all the managing directors, especially in Southeast Asia, and we do help each other out. When I first joined, I was a bit naive. I thought, okay, I'm going to break an artist global, but it's hard to get someone in London to care about I had an English language indie folk band. It was Thailand's first act to play at South by Southwest in 2019, right? So I was all jaded, and I thought, okay, I'm going to put them on the map, right? Nobody showed up. I mean, they were well received, but yeah, of course, if you're in UK and you're focused on Dua Lipa, why are you going to care about, some indie band from a small country? But that said, if I can make waves, they will pick it up and take it further. So for example, I've got an artist right now he's the first artist I've had in Thailand. His name is Jeff Satur, and he has more listeners outside of Thailand than he does in Thailand.
But he's based in Thailand.
He's based in Thailand, and until recently, most of his releases have been in Thai. He just released a song today in English, and his earlier release in September, we did a Thai version and an English version because we saw the traction picking up. And so my Warner colleagues in Indonesia and Philippines and Singapore and Vietnam and Taiwan have leaned in, and now he's been booked for shows in Indonesia, in Singapore, and in Vietnam in February next year through the help of the network. And now I'm working together with the whole of Warner Music Asia to see what can we do next year to get to lift his profile, to get his numbers so that he is interesting for, Warner Music in the West to look into, to see, what can we do to continue to grow. So there are those pathways. It's just, it's a long way to go for someone from a small country like Thailand. Small meaning, the economics aren't, they're not great. Everybody wants to come to Asia though. And that's where we have an advantage, because people are seeing that Western artists are breaking out of Southeast Asia. Philippines has broken quite a lot. It's a huge market for Spotify. Indonesia as well. Thailand, we've been involved in breaking. There was a point where this British act Thailand was their biggest market. They started breaking in South Korea. Then they blew up in Thailand. From Thailand, they blew up in Indonesia. And now they're continually getting booked back. So we do get a lot of people coming in. Pink Sweats is another one who was here recently, and he's done a collaboration with 4 Southeast Asian artists, I believe. So they're looking at us. We're becoming more attractive as a place to stand out. And people here love it when a non-Asian comes over and spends some time in market, and the fans here really appreciate that, right? And they will repay that tenfold, 100-fold, to be honest, and be loyal fans.
When you talk about all the different genres that you've mentioned, is there one genre that seems to stand out as more specific than any of the others? And you've mentioned a lot, obviously K-pop and the kind of the Western urban sound, and I think you've even mentioned a little bit of metal and country. But is there one that's more predominant than another?
In Thailand, I really think, Thailand is basically a domestic market. So I would say, depending on which platform you're talking about, anywhere between 60 and 80% of the content consumed is Thai language. Thai people love Thailand, and they love, and they resonate with that. So if it's a more mass platform like YouTube, that covers everybody. It's free. There's a lot of Thai country, Thai folk music, and I think by volume that leads. But if you're talking about the more, the Apple Music, the Spotify, those are our 2 major sort of streaming platforms outside of YouTube, which is more leaned into, I guess, pop. It's still quite Thai. There's a bit more international there, maybe 20-25%, and K-pop as well. But of the Thai, I would say there's a pop R&B sound here, kind of a pop R&B, a little bit indie sound. I think what's key here is if people can sing along, and that's just it. If people can sing along and the hook is great, or there's a really catchy thing in there, and because people here just want to enjoy themselves, right? There's a Thai ethos. When I first moved here, someone said to me, it translates to don't think too much, meaning let's not stress, right? They just want to enjoy things. So if you go see a Thai movie, they're either really funny or really scary or really tear-jerking. They just want to be in the emotion. So if it's something that really pulls your emotions out, pulls you along, you can go to the bar, go to the club and sing along, go to karaoke. That's kind of the secret. I remember playing a song for my then head of A&R. It was a Western song by an artist named Fauzia, right? I've never heard of this woman before. And I saw this clip and her voice just blew me away. It was just incredible. And I played it for him. He said, it won't work here. And I said, why? He said, she's too good. No one can sing that. And I'm like, and it was true. The song, we couldn't break it, right? But if you're good but relatable, I think that's about it.
Well, and I think what you explained was it's on a very simplistic level, it's kind of how the music scene here in the States and in Europe was back in the days. It's something that's just got to be totally relatable to the masses.
Yeah. I like getting into those rabbit holes of these amazing artists, math rock and this and that and the other thing. I play the guitar not very well anymore, obviously. I can do the pentatonic scale and play the blues or whatever. But then I see these kids and I just want to put my guitar away, but I get it. I like it. But I'm not going to be listening to that over and over and over, right? I can appreciate that from like a, oh my God. But, if it's going to be something that people are going to listen to, share with their friends, it's not so deep, right? If it moves you, right? If it grabs you, if it pulls you in, and if it moves you, then that's all that it takes.
On the show with us today, all the way from Bangkok, Thailand, we have Karl Kongkham, who is the managing director of Warner Music Thailand.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Whether you consider yourself a musician or not, music is all around us, and it affects our everyday lives. Whether it's background music influencing our shopping habits in a store, organ music adding the vibe to a baseball game, or a playlist convincing us to keep going on that last mile of a run. I'm Mindy Peterson, host of the podcast Enhance Life with Music, where we take a holistic look at music's benefits through the lens of science and medicine, entertainment, and business. You can find me and Enhance Life with Music at mpetersonmusic.com/podcast or wherever you get your audio.
When you have a Korg synth at your fingertips, the possibilities are endless. Be it digital, analog modeling, altered FM, wave sequencing, or the multi-engine synth, Korg gives you easy access to a variety of features to help you get the perfect sounds quickly. Whether you're a professional musician or just starting out, Korg truly has a synthesizer to help you express yourself. Visit Korg.com or your favorite Korg dealer to get your hands on one of their products to create new music always. Korg, the official sponsor of the business side of music.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Back on the show here on the business side of music, all the way from Bangkok, Thailand, is Karl Kongkham. During the break, you reminded me that we didn't finish the question of how did you actually wind up in Thailand?
Yeah, so I had my midlife crisis at the age of 27. I think, I finished my master's degree and I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. This is the honest answer. I was like, what am I going to I don't know. I had a master's degree in an obscure subject, philosophy. My original plan was to be a professor and, wear turtlenecks and drink lattes and sit on university campuses. But I didn't get the scholarship. So I was like, oh, what am I going to do? And I could have probably gotten a job, but that was scary. I'm half Thai. My father's from Thailand and he had already moved back. So I thought, I know, I'm just going to save up some money. I bought a one-way ticket, told myself I was going to stay here for at least 3 years, try to learn the language and figure out what I was going to do with my life, like the old Twisted Sister song. And so, I spent 3 years here, learned the language somewhat in that time, finally got a job in advertising and been here ever since and loving it.
When we talk about the Thai music scene versus the rest of the world, and you mentioned Jeff Satur, what do you see as the next big thing for the Thai music scene? Is there a specific genre or style of music or an artist that you see breaking out?
Okay, so Jeff is a unique case, but there have been some artists who have broken out who have kind of an international sound, but with a bit of Thai flavor to it, right? Whether it's a sense of humor or a style or something like that, a bit more an Asian flavor. So there's been an artist, 4 or 5 years ago named Phum, Phum, Vipurit, and he wrote a great song called Lover Boy, and it got all over the playlists, and then he sort of took himself around the world playing small shows, and he's done well for himself. I think in Asia, Thai music does travel. Now, whether we can go global or not, I think there will definitely be an Asian superstar who is not K-pop for sure. Now, I'm hoping it's one of my artists, but it could come from the Philippines, it could come from Indonesia, but it's going to happen because the music here, there's so much talent here. If you're asking me what it's going to be, I don't think it's going to be the Thai version of K-pop. I don't think we can do that. We're trying to do that. There are people trying to replicate that, and it will probably evolve into something unique and cool, but we don't have the discipline that the K-pop, just the way the Thai lifestyle is, it's just not that, regimented, right? We're a bit more freestyle, a bit more creative that way. The reason Jeff is blown up is he's also an actor, and he's acting in a series. There's a series of new genre blowing up out of Thailand but it's actually originally a Japanese genre called Boy Love, kind of androgynous. And he was in one and it blew up and it just increased his profile, but he's not an actor. He's not a Boy Love actor. And that's not how he defines himself. He's been writing and doing music for 10 years. During that time, during the last year, we have been working with him on his music, his A&R, and that just sort of coincided with this series blowing up, and it really sort of exploded his profile. So, in the day of TikTok or whatever, you'll take whatever exposure you get, but if the kid's talented enough, he'll go places. So now I'm looking to what do I need to do to make him work outside of Thailand? We need to maybe improve his English. We need to get better production quality so that he can stand toe to toe with, the higher production value that we have in that exists in the West and work that way. So I don't know what specific genre it will be, but I'm sure it'll probably be some kind of pop, singer-songwriter pop.
Well, I wish you nothing but the best, especially on your continued growth that you're seeing there in Thailand. And I really appreciate you staying up this late, especially on a Friday evening on being on the show.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I mean, it's gone by really fast too. So I hope I was helpful or interesting or there was something, but happy to answer any questions. And I really appreciate your time and giving Thailand a bit of a listen and a bit of a look. And, if anybody wants to have a listen, hit me up. I'll send you some recommendations.
Yeah. So how can people reach out and find out?
We have multiple artists. So Warner Music Thailand, you can look up I think our website is actually down for maintenance right now, but will be a Warner Music Thailand website up fairly soon. We have YouTube channels called, one is Wafer Records, WAYFER Records. One is Dumb Recordings, DUMB Recordings, and then Warner Music Thailand YouTube channels as well. You'll see most of our artists there. Or it's me, Karl.Kongkham, Kongkham, Karl with a K, at warnermusic.com.
Karl, thank you so much for your time. I truly, truly appreciate it.
Thank you, Bob. My pleasure.
The Business Side of Music is the creation of Tom Sabella and Tracy Snow and is produced by Bob Bender. The Business Side of Music is recorded at Music Dogs Studios in Nashville, Tennessee. Production sound designed by Keith Stark. Voiceover and promo by Lisa Busan.